Welcome everyone to the View from the Clipper podcast. I'm your host, James Warner, joined as always by Josh Sexton. Josh, how the hell are you doing?
It's a good question, isn't it? We've not actually had a chance to record for the past few weeks. I think it was last week I did the live, which is over on our YouTube about Chris Paul. The week before that, I think I'd cancelled because I was ill. You cancelled last week because you were ill. There's been a lot going round here in the UK. You can kind of still hear it wearing on my voice, to be honest. A lot of people feeling very run down going into the Christmas period. But luckily, the Clippers have not been able to run over my Christmas celebrations in the past few days because it's been the NBA Cup, hasn't it? So that's been quite exciting to watch some other teams. But the Clippers are back to it tonight as we record, at least. So I'm ready to get her all over again, James. How are you doing? Because you never got a chance to sort of respond to the Chris Paul news, at least at the time. So I'm intrigued to get your initial reaction to everything that happened. If you were out of your sick bed by that point, and then also how are you feeling about it all now?
Yeah, it was a bit of a week for me. Like you said, I was sick, unfortunately. Like I was gutted to have missed this one. Because obviously it was some big news, probably one of the biggest news of the season. And it just made me feel even worse, really, because like it's just a terrible situation for all parties, for Clippers fans, for the Clippers franchise, for Chris Paul. Again, just more bad news coming our way, and yeah, not great. Borderline depressed with the whole situation with the Clippers right now, but I think we got to soldier through it. In terms of my own opinion on the situation, I'm happy to get into it. I was shocked first and foremost. I never thought it would come to this conclusion this quickly. I think the bits for me that are most outrageous and have disappointed me the most, I think, is just the manner the situation was handled by the team. You know, the news was dropped around I think 3 a.m. Eastern time, obviously during a Clippers road trip. I just think like it could have been handled a lot better. I know that the NBA schedule is wild. It forces the team into crazy situations. I think with after obviously you spoke about it last week, Josh. Obviously, there's been more information that's come out around like the context of how Chris was told and like his behavior and the team. It sounded like they were having some super late night meeting. Again, I can't remember the detail whether the meeting was like just to tell Chris that he's not going to be part of the team and sort of explain it to the locker room to obviously just like handle it as best they could. But I just don't understand why it had to be there and then at that point. Like I just wish they could have kept it under wraps for a more suitable time, given such a big fuss was made about Chris Paul returning and this being such a special season for a franchise legend. I think we all agree like Chris's fit on the team has been less than ideal, far less than ideal. Um, I think that some people, including I think ourselves, sort of got our head around it and thought maybe, yeah, Chris could be a decent addition based on the fact that, he played 80 games last year for the Spurs and was such an influence on that locker room that he could have an impact. But obviously that clearly hasn't been the case. And yeah, it sounds like it's been a little bit of a nightmare and a marriage made in hell for the Clippers. There's been more stuff that's come out. Obviously, this sounds like there's been a little bit of an argument between Jeff Van Gundy and Chris Paul. I think Chris Haynes done that reporting to say that Chris wanted to change a defensive assignment, and Jeff Van Gundy approached him after the game to say like, you don't do that, you're not allowed to do that. And there's been more stuff that has come out, but I can't help but not side with Chris Paul. I don't know if your opinions have changed, Josh, in the week and having a week to digest it further.
A little bit just in terms of some of that context, because I think what it sounds to me like I'm still not okay with the way it was dealt with in the end, like you say, like that's the bit that I said on the live. I don't like the way that, a franchise legend has gone out. We were all expecting his jersey to go in the rafters and to be like the perfect ending to head towards that. And that feels like it's a long way away now. And to be honest, like even Blake Griffin's reaction, which like I don't blame Blake Griffin for, he's Chris Paul's friend, and Blake is obviously just always going to do it from the players' side of things, which is another thing that I mentioned on the live was that the experiences that DeMarcus Cousins and Lou Williams shared of Lawrence Frank and the Clippers organization are obviously always going to come from the player side of things. DeMarcus Cousins made me laugh because he was like, I hate Chris Paul, but like I still feel sorry for him in this situation. And I think that's like, even if you did hate Chris Paul, and I don't, I love Chris Paul, like that is kind of where you arrive at, is that like you just feel sorry for him in this situation in terms of how it ended. But there's some things clearly that the Clippers couldn't abide by, and I feel like the chats that must have happened to bring Chris on the team is where I believe there's sort of no smoke without a fire, and that's where a lot of people have been left to speculate because there wasn't a lot of information before, and especially when he was first cut from the team, there wasn't a lot of information around that. But it feels like basically the Clippers had told Chris Paul he'd have to tone his behavior down. And, like whether the Clippers would have bought into the idea that he was going to or not, I think like if that is the directive from the Clippers higher ups to Chris, is that we want you to tone your behavior down. Like you're not now the oldest vet by some distance on like a young roster in the way that he was with the San Antonio Spurs or the OKC Thunder, or those kind of things. The last team it didn't work for like this on for Chris Paul was the Golden State Warriors, who of course I don't think they did cut him halfway through the season or whatever they did. I think it might have been if there was at most a mid-season trade. I'm trying to think back to that sort of time now, but it feels like that's the last time this didn't work, and I think it's no sort of coincidence really that that was another time where he wasn't this like he wasn't this veteran guy on a roster full of rookies. I think there was a Spurs fan tweet that went like viral around the time, probably just viral on sort of Clippers Twitter really, where he was like, oh, this is not an example of a guy who's like toxic to the locker room or whatever, and it was like the Spurs
Mm.
players celebrating with Chris after some sort of like career milestone. And rightly, I think it was either Jamal Christopher or Justin from LA Clippers film. I know those two are brothers, aren't they? So I'm inclined to get them confused because like I love both of their like Twitters and their takes on the Clippers. But one of them was saying like, yeah, but that's a 40-year-old guy on a roster full of like 20-year-old guys. So it's going to be different to when he comes to the Clippers. And
Yeah.
it seems to me, at least, like the information that's come out suggests. Um, a conversation was had at the start. Expectations were laid out that Chris is not going to play very much, and he accepted that part of things. But also that like he couldn't be that same like abrasive style of Chris Paul that he was, and it feels like he turned up was exactly that same abrasive style of Chris Paul that he was. There's a Tyronn Lue video going around which has been taken like wildly out of context, by the way, which it feels like we should like comment on really because again, like I think it was Bones Highland came out and leapt to Ty's defense on this and was saying like this is exactly the way Ty is. Like this is messing around, which is because Ty is like a player first coach. He acts like he's like one of the guys. He doesn't seem like he's a guy who's way older than all the rest of you. So that wasn't actually Ty like deliberately like talking down on Chris Paul's name or whatever. That was just like trash talk. But what the one little gem that was in there was that basically it seemed like Chris Paul, whenever he was on the floor, wanted the ball to run through him and wanted to be like the leader on court and stuff like that. And Tyronn Lue was saying like, I think he said ain't no name on it, as in like this ball doesn't belong to Chris Paul. We pass the ball around until we find the best shooting option. And again, you can debate whether that has been the truth with the Clippers this season. I would argue that it hasn't been the truth, that the Clippers haven't passed it around to find the best shot, but that's at least what Tyronn Lue wanted from the Clippers and from Chris Paul. They didn't really get it from Chris Paul. We've both mentioned that the basketball fit wasn't there, and I talked about that in more depth on the live. But I just wanted to comment on those things because they are the other bits of information that have come out. And of course, there's been a lot that's come out from Chris's side, Chris Paul's side through Chris Haynes as well. I don't know if they thought that Jeff Van Gundy thing was going to like come out and everyone's going to be like, oh yeah, I'm on Chris Paul's side there. Like again, if Chris is going to accept that he's a role player on this team rather than like one of the, and he's a veteran NBA guy, he's a 40-year-old, he's going to be a leader in some senses, but like he can't just be going around changing up defensive schemes that like Jeff Van Gundy has drawn up just because Kawhi is struggling to keep up with Klay Thompson. Like for one, Kawhi should not be struggling to keep up with Klay Thompson. Like that is a major red flag in and of itself. But if
Hmm.
he is, like Kawhi needs to learn the hard way that if Jeff Van Gundy's put him in those situations, he needs to
Yeah.
catch up to Klay Thompson, or he's going to live and die by that assignment. It's not up to Chris Paul to then change those things as like a role player, as I say. So easier to see both sides a little bit now. Still not happy at how it ended. Still sad we probably won't see that jersey in the rafters, and even sadder then that it feels like Chris has kind of taken Blake Griffin with him into this like them versus the Clippers organization, at least kind of thing. And I referenced at the end of the video, and the point kind of still stands for me that I do want a change of era with the Clippers now, where I'd like to see like a new GM come in to replace Lawrence Frank, or a new head of basketball operations to replace Lawrence Frank, and then for that guy to be able to make a decision, kind of like Joe Dumars has done with New Orleans now, where Joe Dumars has come in, got rid of Willie Green to bring in Jeff
Mhm.
Borrego and James Borrego, sorry, and just like have a look at one of his own guys and try and take us into a new era of like hungry Clippers basketball. Because yes, Chris Paul brought some hunger, but um, it was clearly like way too abrasive for this style of Clippers roster. But I don't want this style of Clippers roster. Like I don't want any more laid back BS, to be honest. Like I want this Clippers roster to be like switched on, to be hard nosed, and kind of get back to that like 2019 underdog Clippers, at least in terms of like mentality, where it's go
Yeah.
out and fight every night like your career depends on it.
Yeah. And it's just unfortunate because, yeah, whilst I think from a basketball perspective, Chris Paul wasn't a great fit, just given where he is in his career, like I just didn't think we saw any resemblance of how he performed last year. And, I thought he played well last year. Like I said, he managed 80 games with the Spurs, but it just didn't feel like that, even that kind of player was there in Chris this season. I just didn't see it in a single moment in a Clippers jersey, which is a shame. But I think his mentality, and I think it's his mentality, probably a exaggerated version of what the Clippers are looking for during this time. But he is so motivated to win. He is so driven to win. I think in that clip you referenced from his time with the Spurs, where they're I think giving him like a an award for, I think he might pass like a milestone. I think it was the assist milestone. I can't remember exactly, but he references there like he recognized like he's a pain in the ass to deal with, but like it all comes from a good place. It comes from a place of just loving the game, and I think that is ultimately what has sort of rubbed off wrong on obviously some of the leadership in the Clippers franchise. Obviously, you can't, as you've rightly said, you can't start dictating plays in basketball. There are there's politics at play, right? But even from just like a strategy perspective, like you employ a defensive coordinator for a reason. You don't employ a 40-year-old Chris Paul to just go and like start mixing things up because he thinks your best player is not in a groove. Like it is just wrong. Like that was a bad decision on Chris's part, but I think we agree ultimately it comes from a good place. It comes from his desire to win, and it must suck for him to obviously not get loads of minutes and to see the team like losing. And obviously the morale must be like through the floor right now because they all recognize like how bad the situation is. um and I don't think this is like a Clippers locker room that is maybe built to deal with those kind of hardships. Like there is a lot of veteran guys like who maybe not used to these situations. Like Kawhi Leonard, I would love to see stats on if Kawhi Leonard has ever been on a team like this bad in his career. I don't think he has. Maybe James has, but he doesn't. These players, they don't want to be in this situation. They know they're better than it. They know, particularly guys like James Harden who are playing so well this season, desperate for an NBA title, to watch the ship go down this bad. Like, yeah, I'm not an inside voice in the locker room. I'm not going to speak for the locker room, but I know if I was in there, like it would be a pretty tough environment to turn up and play at. And you need strong-willed guys with strong mentalities. And Chris Paul, he was that, but ultimately, I think his actions and more things which may be uncovered down the line have cost him and have cost, I think, yeah, like you said, the Clippers an opportunity to give one of their legendary franchise players like a proper farewell tour. I can't think in any sports a time where a legend has come back to a franchise and they've been like treated like this. Like I've been trying to think about it even when you were speaking, like has this ever happened before? I can only think in like football of like players who've come back and like they might have played, they might have been like decent, they've had like a little bit of a go, they've been fun, like the fans have enjoyed it, and then they leave. But like, I've never ever seen a franchise bring a player like that back after ties were potentially severed at one point, to sort of reunite that, rebuild, and then within like 20 games in basketball terms is obviously nothing. to just sever it. And now, like you're rightly saying, the Clippers may never hang his jersey in the rafters, which is absolutely insane given where we were at the start of the season with all like the media and the PR and the content that was being produced about Chris Paul. To go from that to cutting ties with him completely is just insanity. And I struggle to see a world now where his jersey goes up, unless amends are made. But I think, yeah, I can't see it. I can't see it. And again, I don't know if it's like a Steve Ballmer thing or, like you said, if it's like a Lawrence Frank or Ty Lue. I don't like. We don't know. Um, but maybe this takes like a whole new owner. Maybe Chris Paul is going to have to be 90 years old. He's going to have to outlive all of all the franchise's leaders to be able to get his jersey up for the Clippers to finally right their wrongs with him, because yeah, it's not happening in the near distant future like at all.
Maybe he comes back as defensive coordinator in the future. That's the perfect redemption arc to this story.
That'd be so Clippers to bring back a guy that they got rid of for tearing up defensive schemes, making their defensive coordinator. Like that is probably more of a reality. Um, yeah, that is incredibly Clippers to be able to do something like that. And like he's clearly got the basketball brain for it. Like to be able to sort of read things like that and notice when players are having off nights and telling them to switch up. Obviously, it's like not a thing a player should do, but like that's a coach's brain, and like Chris Paul is definitely going to be an NBA coach. Like I think that's been said even before his time with the Clippers. Um, I would love him to come back and that to be his like um redemption arc in terms of like the franchise doing right by him and giving him an opportunity. Like I think that's a good pathway, but for now, obviously he's away from the team. We don't know what is going to happen with him. And again, I think the thing that has just irked me the most is that this felt like it didn't need to happen right now. Again, I don't know if it was pushed to the point where it's just like rip off the plaster, rip off the band-aid, and just cut the ties because it can't go on like it. He's, potentially like poison to the locker room. Like I don't know how bad it really got. It must have been for them to cut ties with him so early in the morning on a road trip, but yeah, yeah, it's just a bit unbelievable because obviously he's still technically a Clipper and it doesn't seem like a move is in sight. Like I get it if there was like going to be a move that they could make. I know that maybe they're thinking about Kobe in the future, Kobe Sanders, because he's on obviously a contract, which means he can't play more than 44 games. I know we're probably about approaching the halfway mark. Maybe they've got that in mind, but again, that's still a little way away to be able to cut ties now. Things must have gone drastically wrong. And yeah, I'm gutted. I'm really gutted. I'm gutted for the Clippers franchise. I'm gutted for Chris Paul, and I'm gutted for the fans, really, like ourselves, because like the season has been terrible already, and just to have this on top of like the record, on top of the aspiration things, like it has never been a worse time, in my opinion, to be a Clippers fan. I feel like all we have right now is Intuit Dome, and like if we didn't have that, like I don't know what we would have. It's a real shame. And I don't want these podcasts to be all like doom and gloom, but like that's just where we are right now. And yeah, it's a shame. I'm gonna miss Chris Paul. Like I said, basketball wise, it was a bad fit. I think we even called it from the start. Like I think when Bradley Beal joined, I remember distinctly saying like Chris Paul would be a bad addition to come with Bradley Beal, just because like yeah, why would you do that? I don't know. But again, to bring him in for the experience and for that not to work out is just another poor move from L. Frank and the Clippers leadership. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Chris Paul, Josh. I don't know if you want to speak any more on him. Otherwise, like I'm keen to speak around like the Clippers and where they go now. You made some good points about El Frank because I think there's obviously been a lot of his quotes in the media recently. He's called Ty Lue his partner. He said Ty Lue is going to be around. He's going to be a coach with the Clippers for a long time. And there was also, I'm pretty sure I read some rumors in the week about maybe a contract extension for Lawrence Frank, which is incredible timing based on like the PR disaster and the way the team are performing. So, how are you feeling about the franchise, the direction, and L. Frank's position, and Tyler Lue's as well?
Yeah, I mean, my feelings are on record now. I said it before, and I think I've said it on the podcast where we did a big look to the future as well. That like I don't think Tyronn Lue is necessarily the guy to like inspire a new generation of Clippers to be anything more than just like a bit too laid back. Really, I think that's the point it's got to with this roster now, where it's like a load of old guys who don't really want to play at pace, who don't want to fight hard. It's we were sort of almost batting away the jokes by being the retirement home Clippers in the off season, or at least like claiming them jokes as our own. And really, it does feel like that. Like I don't know if you've ever been in a retirement home, James, but like they are just the
Mhm.
slowest places on earth in
Yeah.
every sense. It feels like hours will just like, we'll just while away there. Seconds will feel like hours in a place like a retirement home. And that's kind of like how it feels watching Clippers basketball at the moment. Like it's such a tough watch. The Clippers don't fight very hard, at least not through all four quarters. They tend to just collapse completely in third quarters, and that's been the way it's been for a little while now until they play teams that are somehow worse than them. Um, this pick is going to go to OKC and it's going to go over with a whimper as well because it's going to be a lottery pick. I'm convinced of that. Like I don't think the Clippers are making the play-in. I previously had a bit of hope that the teams who are at the bottom of the play-in would fall out, but I just think the Clippers are not good enough to be in there. So for that, like I think there has to be big change, and I understand like if Lawrence Frank and Steve Ballmer and Ty Lue have got this partnership going between the three of them, and they're effectively trying to say to the fans, like, well, the big change that's going to happen is like we're going to gut the whole roster and everybody is up for grabs. The trade rumors about Ivica Zubac are gathering more and more pace by the day, it
Yeah.
feels like. But like, I don't know, part of me as a fan like doesn't want to see Ivica Zubac leave the Clippers really. Like, I don't mind seeing the roster gutted, but like, I'd quite like there to be some semblance of like the next era of Clippers basketball having a bit of a semblance of like the previous bit of Clippers basketball as well. And listen, like if it costs Ivica Zubac for us to continue to be a good team, then I kind of don't mind if it's Ivica Zubac is given away at the expense of us being a good team next season is what I mean. Of course, we're not going to be a good team this season now, but at the expense of being a good team next season, then I'm probably just going to continue to question like what the direction is because we were kind of told, not internally necessarily, but like Steve Ballmer, it seemed like he was never going to tank because he's always got the money to not have to do that. So I can kind of accept one bad season as like, oh, that's just transition. That's bound to happen. Like it's not full blown rebuild where we have to
Hmm.
sit for 3 years and gather up draft picks and all that kind of thing. Um, but then the proof needs to be in the pudding there, really, that we need to be a good team again next season. And if that looks like it did in 2019, as a reference before, where we are kind of a bad team, but there's a real fighting spirit, then I'm absolutely all for that. Of course, I am. But there is definitely a part of me that's worried that it won't just be like one bad season of Clippers basketball, that it's going to take us a few trades and some of them won't be good. And like, if Ivica Zubac went to the Celtics, I think he'd take so much over there to the Celtics. Would probably win a ring at the first time of asking if it's him, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown as the core there with guys like Derek White and Peyton Pritchard and stuff around that. So, yeah, I want a bit more of an indication of like what the next era of Clippers basketball looks like because, as you say, we now know, or at least we can be pretty confident that it's going to be Lawrence Frank and Ty Lue and of course Steve Ballmer steering the ship of that. But like, I would quite like to know who is going to be the franchise guy because I kind of thought that might be like Ivica Zubac at least for a little bit, and now it's not going to be, or who's going to be the guy that is the culture setter and like tells people what it's like to be a Clipper. Is that Tyronn Lue? Because I'm not particularly happy with Tyronn Lue's contribution to the Clippers culture this season. Is it going to be Jeff Van Gundy, as just as an assistant coach rather than the head coach? Well, then I'm all for that, but I believe there are head coach positions coming for Jeff Van Gundy, and I'll be interested to see whether he takes them. So, yeah, I'm not like filled with confidence about any of this really, as I'm sure you're in the same boat, James. But like I don't know about you. I just like I'm struggling to take much in terms of like, oh, this is what the future looks like now for the Clippers.
Yeah, I just don't think you can reward the Clippers leadership under Steve Ballmer with more time. I think obviously they made a big gamble back in 2019. I think all Clippers fans would still back. I think I'd still back that gamble, like even knowing what I know now, like obviously the OKC Thunder at the moment could be one of the best NBA teams of all time. I think they've just tied the record for the best start to an NBA season ever. They were the best offensive team, also the best defensive team. They are putting up just insane point differentials every game, and obviously they would not be able to do that without the Clippers making that move. Um, I just, yeah, obviously back then, no, with the knowledge available at the time, you make that deal. But I'm just not backing a franchise with that kind of strategy again because it clearly just hasn't paid off. Obviously for one reason or another, there's obviously been many opportunities along the line. You call out 2021 and so 2029, like 2019 being like two good seasons. But I just don't get the idea of resetting the whole team, but then keeping on El Frank and Ty Lue. Like I think there just needs to be like that whole culture switch, strategy change up because I can't subscribe to like another one of these sort of futures where the Clippers are just chasing veteran guys. I feel like we're so much more than that. Like we've got Intuit Dome, we've got the market for big players. Like I can't deal with more injury scares, and you know this is all things that come part and parcel with the strategy that the Clippers are currently employing. On your point around trading Ivica Zubac, obviously he's been one of my favorite Clippers players for many years. I think many Clipper fans will say the same. Obviously he's been a constant, and obviously just watching his development, like yeah, I would hate to see him go. And I think in particular, I would hate to see him go in the sort of expense of James Harden and Kawhi, just to sort of keep them happy in terms of trying to win more games. Like obviously the Clippers have put themselves in a position where he is like their only real asset. He's their only real like tradable asset where he's going to garner like a lot of good offers. But you know, if the Clippers are trying to look for like win now guys just to sort of save face, like I'm not about that at all. Like I think it's quite clear like this team has rode its course. So if they do trade him, they need to trade everyone. They need to completely reset, just get as many draft picks as possible, like take the down years, accept that OKC are going to be this juggernaut for the next few seasons. Like I know they'll get a lottery pick, but where that fits in and they're already deep roster, like I don't know. Like I feel like they'd probably flip that for like a better player. Like I don't know. I just don't see the point of them really grabbing more young talent. Like they're obviously at a point now where they just need to maximize the SGA years with the group around him, and obviously that's going to be many years. So Clippers may as well get a head start and start stockpiling. But we know Steve is not about that strategy. So I think we're all as fans and even like media members, reporters, anyone who covers the teams, we're just waiting for like the first chess piece. And like I want to see what direction they're going to go. They need to prove us wrong and show that they're willing to press the reset button because I strongly disagree that they're going to go down that route. I think they're really going to try and maximize as much out of this window to avoid the embarrassment of giving OKC like another pick, but obviously like quite a valuable pick if the team can continue to lose. So yeah, I don't really know where they go from here. I just think if they continue to lose games, like they've got to pull that trigger sooner. I think I agree with you in terms of I don't see this team as a playoff team. I think you know there's every chance that they could be like a low play-in team based on the fact that there are teams with better records than them who actually have an incentive to lose games as the season closes. So I can definitely see the Clippers winning more games if their attitude is win now. They're going to start beating teams who want draft picks. Whereas I think right now, like you're seeing a lot of teams just trying to scramble for wins. And I think as we get into the latter stage, like that's not going to be the case. So I can definitely see the Clippers moving up. Like I'd be shocked if they're like still joint third worst team in the NBA when they've got zero incentive to lose. I think we're going to see like a big change in that. So you know that could bring them up to near the playing spots. But obviously, like there's no chance for this Clippers season based on this roster and what we've seen over the 20 games. Like the Clippers are not doing anything. They're not getting to the playoffs. They'll definitely go out of the play-in even if they get in. So it's really just about like damage limitation in terms of just avoiding the embarrassment of giving the Thunder a lottery pick, which just game by game, the more games they lose, just seems more and more likely. So yeah, it's a pretty bad time to be a Clippers fan. Obviously, the Clippers are now 6-18. They've lost 16 of their last 19 games. They're the second worst team in the Western Conference. As I said, the joint third worst in the NBA. And I'm just hoping that, like I said, there's that opportunity to start winning games. I think the Clippers have been playing like a bit better as of late. Like I think the last game against Timberwolves was a disappointing one to drop, given they were leading for much of that game. I think I mentioned off air, like I was watching a bit of that game, and I think they were up by 18 at one point, which again, in Clippers fashion, just sort of dropping these leads, whether they're working so hard, they're playing so well, but just can't close out games, and it's just been a constant theme throughout this season. So, yeah, Josh, have you caught any of the Clippers recently? Noticing any signs of improvement? Is there any optimism for us? Because I feel like we're going to be having this conversation week on, week out, and we have so far, but there's got to be a turning point somewhere. And I don't know whether that's a trade or just the team playing their way into the season. Again, I'm not sure, but I'm keen to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think it'll have to be a trade because I think you see in even in these games, like you mentioned that the Timberwolves game was a little bit more reassuring, but like reassuring on the basis of like the Clippers kept it close for a while, but the Clippers have done that all season really. Like the Clippers have been able to keep most games close for three quarters. They lose the third quarter to the Timberwolves by 8 points, then they lose the fourth quarter to the Timberwolves by 9 points. And it's like, well, if you're going to lose two quarters by a collective 17 points, you're probably going to struggle to win the game, especially against a good team like the Timberwolves. So um, I did watch, I only saw highlights of the Timberwolves game and sort of like, reference them with the box score, but I watched the Grizzlies game the night before and just like couldn't believe what I was seeing, to be honest. Like,
Mhm.
the Grizzlies have clearly been a little bit better in recent weeks. They look really good without Ja Morant, but like the extent to which the Clippers got like just beaten in that game, like how they were beaten again, like another third quarter collapse to score 17 points in the fourth quarter, like um just yeah, like not good enough at all. Meek performances from Kawhi Leonard feel like they're sort of marking this run, and the counting stats for Kawhi look okay, which may help the Clippers in terms of Kawhi being in trade conversations and stuff. But like if anyone has been watching Kawhi throughout these games, like he takes 17 shots in that game against the Timberwolves and scores 20 points. Like when you see James Harden is taking 18 shots and scoring 34 points, and that was only one of five from three as well, by the way. Kawhi just took four threes against the Timberwolves. Like, neither of those stat lines are enough, really. James Harden gets to the line so often against the Timberwolves, which basically, plumps up his stats, really. But, like, you want Kawhi to be shooting more shots than that. That's like the simple matter of fact. And I don't know whether they're just like trying to share the sugar because they want other guys to take a bit of the responsibility for what is going on at the moment or whatever. But then you've got James Harden coming out in interviews and saying that they're, relying on guys they didn't expect to be relying on. The bench is looking horrible at the moment, even with Bogdanovic back, which I think is like big for the Clippers. It doesn't move the needle enough. Like it's big relative to what the Clippers are going through because the Clippers are an awful team without Bogdanovic. They're still a bad team with him. That bench is still bad. So we had a good Kobe Brown game against the Grizzlies. That was like one reassuring thing, I think. But like I'm not overly impressed with what I've seen from Kobe Brown so far, to be honest. Like I don't think it looks like he has the athleticism or the sort of skill really to be like a guy on a winning NBA team. I could be proven wrong because I'm pretty sure I thought similar about someone like Moussa Diabate, for example, or basically any other undersized big that the Clippers have drafted in recent years. I know Moose is not that undersized at 6'11", but think back to like God, even as far back as like Jonathan Motley and who had there been after that, Kabengele, and I'm sure there was someone else I'm missing, Daniel Oturu.
Mm,
No disrespect to any of those guys, but like they were all just bad draft picks by the Clippers.
yeah.
And like no shock that like all three of them are out of the league now. So I think Kobe Brown unfortunately is heading towards that again from the more that we've seen of him recently. He falls out of the rotation when Bogdanovic comes back. Brook Lopez was unfortunately back in the rotation because he has been just so far off a cliff this season that was like hard to see coming really for us as fans at least. But we're casual observers of what he was doing with the Bucks. There were clearly guys in the Clippers organization who maybe should have seen this coming a little bit more. the drop off that Brook Lopez has had, unless it's just been a complete shock to everyone. But like, plays a lot of basketball last season, and he's like 37 years old or something along those lines. So it probably shouldn't have been too much of a shock, even to us, to be honest. Like I feel a bit silly for not anticipating that there could have been a big drop off there. But I think you just get excited about your basketball team, don't you? Like even when you said before that
Mm,
when we were talking about Beal and Paul sort of being bad fits together for the Clippers, like I remember when it actually happened, being like, okay, I can kind of rationalize this to be that because that's what
yeah.
you do as a fan, don't you? Like you drink the Kool-Aid, you take the copium, and then you just start to like you try and dream that your team is going to be a good one, and then you see some of like the bench stat lines that we've had in recent games, just like unbelievable. The two games against the Grizzlies have highlighted as much as any for me, really, where like both, I think in both times, Santi Aldama from the bench has outscored the whole Clippers bench by himself. And then everyone else on the
Hmm.
Grizzlies has at least got like 5 points in those games, and the Clippers have struggled for anybody to break that until Bogdanovich came back in. So, yeah, so much to be like disappointed about from the Clippers recently. Uh, I don't know what it can turn around on in terms of like something that isn't a trade. Like the only thing I can think that turns the season around in any way is a trade. And even then, like if we were to make wholesale changes to the roster at the midway point of the season, like whether it's the trade deadline, whether it's like at some point in December now, which is generally a time when trades start to sort of happen a little bit more. I just think there'll need to be a bit of a period of transition as well. Like it's unlikely that the Clippers make a bunch of trades and it immediately looks good on the court unless there's that kind of like new manager bounce impact with some new players in. So, yeah, not feeling overly optimistic about like the Clippers being able to do anything outside of some trades that will get me in any way excited for, more
No.
than I have been about any part of this season. I'm not sure about you, James.
Yeah, I just don't I obviously would love to see a trade, and I think like on your point about just us being fans, it's like trades I think just like bring like a freshness and just some excitement of just like seeing someone different on the floor, like and just yeah, allowing yourself to be excited about like an opportunity to improve and having like a new guy to root for, and I think the Clippers desperately need that. But I'm just like torn because I think I'm just against the Clippers investing more into this team where they've already thrown so much at it. Obviously it started with the Kawhi and Paul George moves, and obviously have sort of you know tried to build around the edges and have given up a lot of draft capital that's outside of that OKC deal. Like I think people often forget, like the Rockets have a pick, the Sixers have a couple. I think they have a pick and a swap. Like even beyond the OKC deal, the Clippers still don't control their future. So for them to invest, even a pick that they might own in sort of the 2030s, it's like you're really going to throw more at a team that's just like clearly not clicking. I think they have to be so confident in whatever they do, and if they're involving another first round pick in any move. Like I've seen Michael Porter Jr.'s name thrown around, and I'm just like, yes, that would help the Clippers massively this season, but I just think if there's not an NBA title in the near future, like just there's no point making the move. Like just we've got to hit the reset button. And for me, it's either just accepting that this season you just try and get as much out of this group as possible. Maybe make some like slight additions. Try and like pick up a two-way guy and who hits off like. I've seen it happen. You might just need to get lucky, or you're giving up second round picks, or maybe we can turn Bogey and another player into someone slightly better, give more opportunities to Cam Christie. Like there are ways on the margins this team can get better, but I just don't think that's like a big swing for anyone. And if I see like a big name linked to the Clippers, like I refuse to believe it. Because I just don't subscribe to throwing more at this group. Like it just needs that hard reset, and obviously that I think under any other circumstance that hard reset for any other franchise would be done by now. Like I do think like it would have been blown up, but the Clippers obviously can't afford to do that because they are just going to arm the best team in the NBA with a lottery pick. So they're really like they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. It's like where do they go? I don't envy Lawrence Frank at all. Like I know people have got their opinions on him. I know we've spoken on him, but like he's got his work cut out for him right now. Like he must be the most stressed man in all of sports because just don't understand how the Clippers have got themselves in this position. Like it's just absolutely crazy. It's not obviously just as I mentioned that PG Kawhi move in the summer of 2019. You know, there have also been like silly moves for players like Eric Gordon, which haven't worked out, and just giving up draft capital for players that just hasn't worked. So yeah, I'm torn with where the Clippers go from here. I do think they've just got to let the team run its course and just hope they make like those small margins to get more wins whilst they have this team around. But I think if guys like Kawhi and James are sensing like the end is near and like there's not a lot, ultimately these guys want to win titles. If they feel like the team aren't going to win titles, like what's motivating them to continue? Like what's keeping James Harden motivated to keep delivering these performances? Like my opinion on James Harden has switched massively from like what we've seen in the Clippers. Like I always thought that this is a guy who just jumps when like the ship goes down. But obviously, like the ship has only just gone down for the Clippers now. I'm like terrified that we're going to see another side of James Harden that is not going to be nice. Like again, like he's a player who wants an NBA title. Like I don't think he's getting that with the Clippers. He's like almost certainly not getting that with the Clippers. And if I'm James Harden, like I'm playing pretty well. I might have a look around. I might have some conversations. Like, if I'm James, I'm trying to be selfish right now because yeah, like we're not doing good by him by obviously keeping him on this team, and his career and his goals to win a title. Kawhi, I don't think anyone knows what Kawhi thinks or wants. Obviously, he wants to win basketball games, but I think he would be decently happy retiring with those titles that he's managed to win. Obviously, I'd let him know that he'd obviously love to get one more, but I don't think he's as motivated as James Harden. Like, I'm not denying Kawhi wants to win a title desperately. Like, clearly he does. Otherwise, why would he be playing the game? But I just know James Harden wants it more because he hasn't won. So I'm terrified of that. Really, like, just that would be the nail in the coffin. I think if he forced the Clippers into doing a deal that would quick start the whole rebuild and take it out of Lawrence Frank and Steve Ballmer's hands. Really, he'll have to move the needle there. So, as I said, we'll wait and see. I'm keen to see what the first chess move is. Maybe the Chris Paul move, telling him at 2, 3 a.m. in the morning was that first move to try and get the Clippers to a better
We
space.
just,
But
we
I'm
just
yet
didn't
to
see
see
the
it.
vision.
Not seen it yet. It's not played off as of right now, but I'm hoping things can turn around. I liked your points on the Timberwolves game. The Clippers are terrible in fourth quarters, and I think that needs to be called out. They're actually the second worst in the NBA. They scored, I think, just under 2 points a game more than the Washington Wizards in fourth quarters. They're 29th in the NBA for fourth quarter performances. And surprisingly, they're top 10 for first quarter performances. So they start games pretty well. They just can't finish them. And again, I don't know if that's like a clear indicator on like the bench unit. And obviously, the bench unit's going to play heavier minutes outside that first quarter. You're probably going to get your more heavy minutes out of your starters in that first quarter. You'd probably argue the same for the fourth. And maybe again, it's just they're relying too much on guys like Kawhi and James, and they're just running out of steam. I just know they need more offensive power on this team. It's a damn shame they've given up Norman Powell. Like yeah, I hate being a fan because I completely agree with your points around like the copium and like trying to see the good even when like really like on paper like losing Norman Powell like we should have all seen it. Like I can't believe I missed that, and trying to fill him with Bradley Beal hasn't paid off. Obviously, we didn't expect Bradley Beal to be injured for the season. Even John Collins has been so disappointing, and I would be surprised if he's a Clipper at the end of the season. Like with the way he's playing, I think the Clippers need to do something there because they just need more out. Like he's not giving them value for money right now in that position or that contract. Like I think they need to pull something out of him. Because yeah, this is just a bad team. Like I was looking at stats thinking, oh, is there something I can pull out? But no, the Clippers are basically bottom 10 in everything. There's not even like a good sign. I think like the eye test, like I said, against the Timberwolves, I thought the Clippers played broadly well, but yeah, just they need to break the camel's back, and I hope it's done in the next few games. I think they've got like a middle in the park sort of strength of schedule for the rest of the season, like 15th. But I think the next run is pretty tough. They've got games coming. They've got two games coming up against the Oklahoma City Thunder. They've got two against the Detroit Pistons. They've still got to play the Nuggets twice. They're playing tonight. So this pod probably be with you either before or after the Rockets game. But playing Houston Rockets twice, obviously a good team. New York Knicks and the LA Lakers as well. Three times. Have still got to play the Lakers. So I'm not looking forward to that as well because they have been playing pretty well. But fortunately, still have like three games against the Pelicans, two games against the Kings four times. Like these are teams probably going to like be less incentivized to win, as I said. So there's plenty more games for the Clippers to win. They've played a lot of road games. I will say that the more wins they can get into a dome, the better. Like even just for the Clippers fans, just to have like some wins just to go and watch, like in the hometown. Like I don't care if they lose like the rest of the road games. Like just win like as much as possible into a dome. Just give the fans as much as they can because the season is just it's been absolutely dire. Um, but yeah, just looking at the next few games for the Clippers, Josh. As I mentioned, Rockets tonight, Grizzlies on Monday, and then the Oklahoma City Thunder, Lakers, Rockets, Trailblazers. How do you think the Clippers are going to get on? Are we going to see a turn, or is this a bit of an ask over the next week?
Ah, God, some of those names of teams you just read out, like I was looking at that Rockets game in particular and thinking like the Rockets have everything that the Clippers don't in terms of like young guys that want to get to the paint or die trying, which, once upon a time was at least a Clippers slogan, if not a Clippers practice. Um, like thinking about the Clippers versus Amen Thompson has genuinely given me like an aneurysm. Not looking forward to that game. Absolutely, definitely not looking forward to the OKC Thunder game, especially with all the
Nope.
narratives that will surround that as well. For anyone who wants to hate watch the Thunder at any point, I know we're suffering this season on the hate watch front, but they go from being below the first apron this season to jumping up to being a second apron team next season when Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams extensions kick in. So maybe this is the last season of OKC being able to be like this level of dominant. But I mean, this level of dominant is looking like they could genuinely go 81 and 1 at this stage, and the
Yeah.
Portland Trailblazers will be the only team that's beaten them, which brings me on to the Portland Trailblazers because we obviously play them during this run. They are basically like the one who I think decides whether the Clippers are a playing team or not. Like if Portland decide that they just want to flip their season on its head and tank, then it basically becomes the Clippers versus the Dallas Mavericks for who takes that last place in the play-in because I can't see Sacramento being a team that is going to win anytime soon. Like that looks even more
No.
somehow discombobulated than the Clippers, although the Clippers are giving them a good run for their money as well. Utah, I think, are definitely just going to tank from this point. They always do. Um, and then obviously the Pelicans, yeah, just they are already tanking. They're already in free fall. So uh, I could see a world in which the Clippers beat Portland in that time. I could see a world in which the Clippers lose every single one of these basketball games. Like again, some of the names you've mentioned in there, the Grizzlies is maybe one that like could and should be close, but they're just playing so much better at the moment than the Clippers
Mhm.
are. It feels like they've been inspired by the absence of Ja Morant to like rally round each other really, and like we're just not looking like a team that is going to rally at all. I I don't even want to dream about what that third quarter against the Thunder will look like. The Lakers, like you said, fresh off a disappointment in the NBA Cup, but I'm sure that will only spur them on, if you pardon the pun. Um, so like I just don't, yeah, I don't see a world in which this Clippers team beats a 17 and 7 as they are now, but God knows what their record will be by the time they face us. And like Luka Doncic nearly averaging a triple double, 35-point triple double on the season is just like obscene. I just want to thank Nico Harrison for his contributions to basketball in California. They're almost as bad as Chris Paul's contributions to basketball in California this season. Sorry, Chris, I shouldn't be throwing shade at you. I'm just acting out because I'm emotional. Um, Yeah, it's a lot being a Clippers fan right now. It's not going to be a happy Christmas for the Clippers. I can certainly say that much unless Lawrence Frank is going to dress up like Bad Santa with that like suit hanging all off him and just and bring us a nice little Christmas gift of a trade at some point. That's genuinely the only optimistic thing I can say about the Clippers right now is bring us a trade, Larry Fingers.
Please, that's all I'm asking for Christmas. Lawrence Frank is just figure this shit out. This is going on for too long. Come
I
on.
like the idea. It was like really shit version of the Mariah Carey Christmas song. It's like all I want for Christmas is the Clippers to trade away their entire roster, besides maybe a Vitesse Zubac.
Yes, yeah. Let's keep it. We need him. There is some like I can share some positive news. You mentioned it, Memphis Grizzlies, Zach Edey. Again, I don't wish like ill on any player. I don't want anyone to be injured, but he is injured and he will be reevaluated in 4 weeks. And he's been one of the better players this year. Like he's starting to sort of break out. So do they take like a little bit of a dip now and allow the Clippers to start? If the Clippers can get some wins, like it's dependent on the Clippers winning. Like, come on, but there is a definite opportunity there, and I think that spot would be the spot I'm like thinking the Clippers should be like aiming for, just win as many games as possible to try and get above the Memphis Grizzlies. And I don't know when Zach Edey's going to come back. Like, it'll be a damn shame if he's out a long time. But if my Clippers hat on, like, yeah, if the Clippers decide to lose like all the games between now and him returning, like that's going to be pretty horrible thing to be saying about Zach Edey, given how well he's been playing. Um,
Have you seen
the
what's
Clippers
coming up in
have,
the Have you seen what's coming up in the distance though, James, for the Grizzlies?
who's it?
The return of 12. 12 is on his way back. He participated in
Oh,
practice on Thursday. So yeah, today, sorry, that is.
okay,
So yeah.
it's a mute point then. It's a mute point then.
He
But
giveth, he taketh away.
yeah, I know. But then, again, like that's still a future that's uncertain.
Yeah,
I don't know
true.
if
It might
he's
be
if he,
worse for them. Who knows?
yeah, could if they decide that he needs to leave the team, then there's definitely an opportunity for the Clippers to take that ninth spot. I'm actually a big fan of the way the Portland Trailblazers have been playing this year. Like, um, clearly a team with a lot of young talent, and I think they've been playing well. Obviously, given the circumstances of their coach, Chauncey Billups. Like, I don't think that's a team that should be aiming for the play-in. Like, they should continue to consolidate their assets because that's like a team that could go like the Detroit Pistons or Indiana Pacers over the last like few seasons, where they've got a young team, just build the experience of like winning games, like beating the OKC Thunder. Like that was definitely not a fluke. Like that is a good team. I just don't think they've got incentives to go into the play-in. So yeah, I think the Clippers have no excuse but to finish above at least the Trailblazers and compete with the Grizzlies for that last play-in spot. There is more good news about injuries. I know we've sort of said about Bogdanovic is not so great impact on the Clippers this year, but he's practiced in full and potentially available tonight. Jordan Miller as well, who has had some bright spots this year before he came down with that injury. I think he was only a few games removed from a 22 point performance, should I say. Um, and I think we were having chats on this podcast a few weeks ago about him potentially averaging 15 points. So that's a player I would love to see given more opportunity. And obviously, there's like certainly opportunity. Like the Clippers are crying out for someone to just be a bit more of like an offensive weapon from the bench, and I think he has that ability. Just need to see it on the court. Need to see it consistently, and whether he's going to do that at 26 now, I don't know. But we all know like Jordan, he's after a contract, and he's never going to get a better opportunity to do it. So glad to see him back. It's just another option for the Clippers just to try and just see if something sticks. And I hope it's works out with Jordan Miller, and Derek Jones Jr. I think there was an update in the week on his progression. Sounds like he is progressing. He's doing individual workouts. Like, yeah, definitely a quick turnaround. I think the timetable still has him out for around 3 to 4 weeks. So let's see where we are. But yeah, definitely not back before Christmas, but could come back in an important run in for the Clippers. Like if the Clippers could be healthy in like the end run to the season. Like we've seen the Clippers do like these kind of runs towards the end of the season. Before we've seen other teams do it, like there's nothing stopping them from being able to pull something together, and turning things around, even just for like the short term, so that the Clippers can breathe in the off season and make some tough choices. Like I think that's just like the ideal scenario right now. Is just get everyone back healthy, start trying to win games, and then just like evaluate where we are, like come like near the trade deadline, and we need to make moves, continue to lose games. Like yeah, I think it might need to be done, but the Clippers do need to get to next off season where obviously they're going to have a lot of money available to try and start to rebuild the roster. They're going to be almost out the other side of the OKC deal and have some fortune going forward, but yeah, I'm happy to leave it there, Josh. I think I want to review where we are next week. Obviously, the Clippers have got some tough games coming up, but I want to see more fight out of this team. We want to see some wins. Like the fact we've only seen 6 wins so far is disappointing. So, yeah, any final thoughts before we wrap this one up for this week, Josh?
No, I didn't know the Jordan Miller news, so that's good. That's given me at least like some semblance of positivity to hold on to.
Something to
Like,
hold on to.
yeah, it's hard to say because he's obviously like a Clippers legend, really, for everything he's given us in the past few years. But like, I think that should probably be the end of Nicholas Batum's time in the
Mhm.
rotation, really. Jordan Miller coming back at least until, like Jordan Miller is not necessarily a guy who's been shown he can be trusted so far with health. So if that is to continue, then obviously Nicholas Batum has, a way back into the rotation, but I just don't think he's helping the team at all, really, at the moment.
Mm.
So I think it's probably high time he was out of the rotation, really, and let Jordan Miller come into that, like beyond, because then like you look at the bench and Jordan Miller, Bogdan Bogdanovic, Kobe Sanders gives you something to be like kind of positive about. Beyond that, like there's no like I don't really want to see Brook Lopez getting much burn. Kobe Brown maybe, but I just kind of feel like the future is not there with Kobe Brown, and I can already see that. I don't think the Clippers are looking like they have much hope for Cam Christie at this stage. It feels like he's going to be another guy that they're just not really that high on, so they're not going to give much burn to him. And then the Ray J Dennis move kind of just feels like one of them where they plugged a gap that was left by Chris Paul, but not with any intention of like actually giving him any minutes.
Mm.
So I'd kind of be surprised if we did see Ray J Dennis at any point, but
Yeah.
no time like the present, I guess. Like if they wanted to just run small, run a small bench with no center on it, like I don't really know how they do that in terms of the way the rotations would go then on the court, whether you almost use Chris Dunn as like the Russell Westbrook center that he used to be at times, where like Chris Dunn, sorry, just plays in the dunker spot and obviously like defends 1 through 5, or John Collins defends their five, which I can't necessarily like the idea of, but you try and find some way to make that work with a shorter bench rotation because, yeah, I feel like Brook and Nico are just harming the Clippers right now, and
Yeah.
younger guys may well harm them, but like I'd kind of like to see them try because I can tell you for free that the old guys are harming it. So hopefully some things we can hang on to, James. Hopefully more positive episodes of View from the Clipper for us in the future. But nice one as always for letting me use this platform as free therapy.
Always, Josh. This is always going to be a platform for you, for myself, just to vent our frustrations. I think it would be good to get more people on in the future to sort of get more perspectives because I think if the Clippers don't improve from here, like we need to find other ways to bring some content to the fans and yeah, let's see what this next week brings. Thank you for bringing up Ray J Dennis because I completely forgot about him. Again, I don't think it's like a major point
No.
for the Clippers going forward, but I think he hit his season high of 17, which I think is the same as Kobe Sanders. So like this is not really like a player the Clippers can hang their hopes on. I was surprised that Ty Washington wasn't given an opportunity, given obviously he's already like with the franchise, like clearly playing well in the G League. Maybe they've just gone with Ray J because he has like NBA minutes, like real NBA minutes under his belt. Um, I guess real NBA minutes is a bit of an exaggeration, but it's in comparison to
Yeah.
Ty Washington. Again, it's probably another one of those where like and you see it in like all sports all the time, where there's like a young player doing well at like a very low level, and people want to pin their hopes on him. Like Ty Washington isn't even the answer for the Clippers right now. I would love to see him get opportunities. I think he deserves a chance given where the Clippers are. But yeah, let's see if an opportunity comes up for him. Um, and yeah, I guess we'll leave it there. Appreciate everyone listening and tuning in, watching as always. Although the Clipper season is obviously in the toilet right now, like I always enjoy jumping on and doing these with you, Josh. So appreciate you coming on as always, and hopefully we'll get one more in before Christmas and the new year comes around. Maybe we can write up a bit of a wish list for Bad Santa Lawrence Frank around what moves we want to make, or maybe we've made a move. Who knows? Maybe Christmas comes early over the next week, and we've got a win, and maybe we've got a new player on the team. So we'll wait and see. Yeah, as I said, appreciate you as always, Josh. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and go Clips go.